Aloha. We are live. We're live in the Conscious Creative on the Facebooks, but this is going to be a live podcast on YouTube, all over the place. I'm here with my friend and fellow facilitator, Anjili,
Yay.
and today we're talking about pivoting into pleasure in your life and biz, which is so my jam. I'll just give a little bit of why I love this topic so much. Every day I wake up in so much pleasure actually to work on my business. My divine purpose is to make art online. That's like the little bit of it, but to help people and facilitate transformation. And I get the opportunity to work with people from all over the world because I did the scary thing of putting myself out there and reinventing myself, pivoting, changing, and allowing that to be witnessed by the masses. I mean, I don't have a big following yet, but
But
the
it's a lot.
masses. It's a lot. So, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell the world who you are, what you do, and what's new. And what's new?
What's new? Everything is new when we're pivoting, right? And that's the biggest thing of the pivot. But I've pivoted so many times in my life that this is such a natural process at this point. And it doesn't necessarily make it easier. But yeah, we're going to dive into that. I'm Anjali. It's nice to be here. Nice to see all of you in Christina's community. And I am a conscious kink therapist. My background is in mental health therapy. And I've been an international teacher and trainer for the last 15 years, using the philosophy and practices of yoga to support the awakening of the collective consciousness. And my big pivot in the last 5 years has been reclaiming my sensuality and my sexuality after motherhood, going through my second divorce, consciously uncoupling, and allowing parts of myself to emerge that haven't been fully center stage yet. And this is where the pivot comes in, and doing that in front of thousands of people over and over again, and even in small community. It's always an interesting journey with lots of juiciness.
Juiciness. I love this so much because both of us came from the mental health therapy world, pivoted. We both were in the yoga world. I would say deepened, because once
Deepened.
you realize, once you go into the yoga world, you realize it's all yoga. So
And
deepened.
even deepening into the occult through that opening. I think the occult probably started a little bit before for me. Yeah.
Ooh, I love that.
Yeah.
Ooh, and I've been talking about the occult just recently, bringing it forward because really we've been studying the mysteries and the deeper mysteries of the world. And I didn't call myself the mystical muse on Instagram because I thought it sounded fancy. Like behind the scenes, forward facing, I'm like, Sagittarius, let's go. But even studying astrology is an occult wisdom, and it's starting to emerge, but there's still hidden layers of things that we've both studied. The tree of life, which I like came into your house and I was like, she's so wise. Look at this. She had the whole tree of life drawn. And so why don't you tell us a little bit about what your connection with was to the mystery and to the occult?
I think it started from a super early age. I was born with my spiritual gifts intact and was an indigo child, a term that sort of describes children that are super tapped into the six senses. And so the seeing, feeling, tasting, smelling, touching, the unseen world. And so it was a journey that shaped my entire childhood and shaped my teenage life, and started to really dive into the practices around 2008, and stepping into the modern mystery schools, the lineage of Solomon, and really kind of tapping into sacred geometry, numerology, astrology, the tarot. Continued my training. I'm an initiate in the Hermetic philosophy and principles. It's the driving force behind everything that I do and the lens that I see the world through. And so my whole life is centered around my connection to spirituality and the invisible world, and translating that information into the physical reality, and supporting people in awakening to what is beyond the physical reality. And so I feel that my training happens a lot in the invisible side of creation, and that my role and job in service to the collective has been to translate what I receive in that realm and bring it into practical, everyday. This is how we apply it to life. This is why it's important. This is why it's relevant. And that's really where I get lit up. And through that spiritual cleansing and integration, tapping into higher states of joy, bliss, and pleasure, and recognizing the connection of the intersection of sex and spirituality, and how important our sexuality and our life force energy is to our spiritual awakening. And so through time, all of these different elements and layers come into play to create where we're pivoting into now.
Ooh, I love what you just said. And something was moving through when you were speaking. And even earlier today, I was thinking about the reinvention and how a pivot is like, we're reinventing ourselves, but not really.
Right.
We're remembering ourselves. And so the fact that you were in the occult world, you grew up as like a mystic, but we didn't have quite the language of like, why can I see beyond? Why am I the one in my family that has been missioned to ask these harder questions? What's the meaning of life? What's the meaning of life? To like people who are just going into the factory every day and like, and like, just trying to like put food on our table. And I'm like, what's the meaning of life? And then we both kind of went out into the world and became teachers, because the function of the teacher is that of like, okay, now I'm understanding these deeper concepts, and we get to now help people through their awakening process by helping them to understand what is unseen. What are all these mystical experiences mean? What does you being a Sagittarius rising, or you being something in human design, why these things are sticking with us is because we are meant to teach them. And I just wanted to say that to all of you, because the people resonating with me are teachers in the making, or teachers that haven't fully activated the fact that you can and are allowed to teach, to reinvent yourself, but to remember who you actually are. You came to this world as a teacher, as somebody already in alignment to understand and to go forth and learn more. You wouldn't have had the desire to like go and learn yoga or learn these things if you weren't meant to bring it forward in your own unique way. And you have now brought your teachings forward in a really unique way. And it's so cool. And yet, as you remember yourself and let the world witness this shift from yogi and having a very amazing international yoga school to working with the sex and the spirituality and that intersection, what has that been like for you to have photos of you tied up and looking sexy, getting spanked on the interwebs? Was there ever a point where you're like, this is too much, or what am I doing? Like, what was that like for you?
Yeah, I think if I one thing that I want to highlight before answering that directly is feeding off of what you just said, and tying in the reality that we come in as these blank slates, and the journey of remembering comes through the pain points of our life. And so just remembering who we were is a process that happens after going through being programmed who we're not meant to be. And that the way in which we can tap into the most authentic expression is to really dive into those trauma experiences or those life moments that shaped us. And I really love what you highlighted in the sense of yeah, we were the ones asking these questions in childhood, but we were being also raised by people who didn't know what was happening to us, and that creates its own trauma. And so, in being able to present myself in the way that I do to the world now, was really a healing of that trauma, a healing of the not being seen, the not being understood, people not understanding you, thinking you're weird, thinking that you're the problem child, and really we're the ones here to heal and to transform. But the way that we do that is going through that pain process and the reclamation of who we were before. And so fast forward to this recent pivot, every day I wake up and I ask myself, this is a lot. Like, this is a lot. And what I've learned to do with that feeling of too muchness, that feeling of being too visible, too seen, is to actually get off on it and get off on the fear of that, get off on the fear of judgment, get off on the fear of rejection, get off on that, and find my pleasure and my purpose actually in the potential that this is going to be edgy for some people. And that was a journey. And of course, we live in a small community in Guatemala. You're being witnessed in this really microscopic way. And change is uncomfortable for people. And so whenever there's any element of change, I definitely, over the last few years of going through a second divorce, being a single mom, getting sober, transitioning my career into this really edgy topic, I've definitely lost friends, I've definitely lost connections, definitely gone through a grieving process of who I thought I was and what my life was going to be. And it is liberating, it's scary, it's fun, it's sensual, but again, it's like coming to that place of being able to turn the pain into pleasure, and pain used metaphorically to just encompass any uncomfortable edge that we're bumping up against, and really to focus on what it feels like to be radically authentic. What does it feel like to be radically in my truth? And then just trusting that the people who align with that are meant for me, and those that don't, great. Like, good luck on your journey. Yeah, not
There's
everybody
so much
has
pleasure.
to like us.
Yeah, and there's pleasure in that.
There's so much pleasure in letting go of the need that I need to be a fit for everybody, and that everybody needs to be a fit for me. Like, it's just not. This is not how life is. I don't have time for that. This is just like not
nobody got time for that. That is so hot.
Any time for that. You're either on board and it aligns, or you get there eventually, or you've already been there and you get it and it's cute, or you don't get it at all, and that's okay too.
Oh, I love this so much, because some of the people that I work with, they come to me with like, how do I start talking about the things that I want to talk about now, with all these people that knew me differently? And I actually have had this question as well of like, can't it, and it's almost like this asking of, am I allowed? And like, in my program, I have like my clients print permission slips and
that.
write them. And now that I've discovered what my human design is, I'm a 6'2", they can send it in and I'll sign it.
Right.
Like, even though we need to be writing our own permission slips. As the 6'2", I am the role model. I'm the teacher. So I'm like, all right. And I sign their permission slip, just even though I know that by them printing it, they have already signed it. If it makes them feel good for a moment, and then I have, another one they sign. But it's like, we are asking permission of somebody at some point, even if we're not of our teachers or our mentors. We're asking of God. We're asking our past selves. We're asking our children, like, am I allowed to change? And it's like, yes, you are. But what I'm hearing too is like, it might kick up something that resembles pain. And through your work of maybe even like inflicting a little spanking of a little bit of physical pain, because I'm studying my own self in the kink world, and I do not like physical pain, and that is great. But what you were saying of this like existential kink, these things that resemble or have the flavor of pain, these wounds,
emotional states,
yes,
imprints, they're energetic imprints. And that's where the juiciness of transformation arises. Like when I talk about conscious kink or existential kink or the work that I do, it's really, for me, it's the energy flow in the body. It's connecting to the expansiveness of our energy field and joining my energy field with another person's energy field to really tap into those pain points as an emotional, spiritual growth edge. And that may or may not include physical pain. There are lots of ways to talk and to experience and do body work that bring up that element of pain emotionally, and then having it present and in the forefront with it as an invitation to dive into, to really experience emotions like grief and loss and sadness and death and despair and hopelessness, and all of these things that actually are the catalyst to physical challenges in our body, in our environment, in our relationship. If we're having external challenges in that way, it's because we have unprocessed pain and wounds. And, you know, trauma is an interesting word that gets overused a lot. As a mental health professional, when I talk about trauma, I'm talking about clinical diagnosis of complex trauma, clinical diagnosis of CPTSD, PTSD, emotional disorders that are affecting the brain chemistry. And I feel that trauma is a word that gets thrown around, that, oh, I'm traumatized, or you're traumatizing me right now, or you're really triggering me. And this is like coming into
Projection, Your Honor.
Sorry. Projection.
Just kidding.
I'm definitely projecting, because this is the fallacy of a lot of the spiritual community right now in terms of their capacity to hold trauma, what trauma training actually is. And I'm sorry if you're not trauma informed when you take a 2-hour workshop online to hold space at some festival. Like, this is not trauma informed. And I think that really having a clear understanding from an actual therapeutic perspective of people, we've talked about this plenty of times, who've gone to school. You remember the one chick, the one day, she's like, you went to school for 6 years? And it's like, yes, like that's a real thing that you do to study some of these things that we're talking about. And so broadening the idea through conscious kink, even around what pain is, around what trauma is, and how we work with the energetic system of the body to change the external environment of our experience, to more to transform our relationships and our dynamics and our connections and our work and our business, is tapping into the pain point of emotional distress, of emotional imprints that have been left on us through life experience, and seeing that as a scale and putting it into perspective, and then just being fully informed about what we're capable to hold for people, with people, what we're actually trained to do to guide them through that journey. And of course, everybody has something to offer, just like knowing what you're capable of holding.
Yeah, I'm actually like, what was coming through, and that I see words, that's my gift, but it was this word of relationship. And relationships are not bound to just boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, or even in a queer relationship of like a romantic relationship. Relating actually is the pinnacle of the coaching space and the self-development world. If we are not able to relate without our trauma coming into the space, or being aware of it, it can really disrupt the space. And I was speaking to a client about this earlier, of like, imagine if I needed her to tell me that I was doing a good job
Right.
after every call.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wouldn't that be terrible that you were paying me
To have your validation needs met.
And I was like, this is what sometimes that we do, at least in the way that we handle the online space also. And it's like, just being aware of it is okay, because it does come up, and having a mentor that you can talk to these things, talk about these things with, does help, because sometimes we are not aware on our own, and we get to be like, hey, do we need likes to practice our mission? Do we need likes on the internet to practice our mission? But what I was hearing also was this fad to use these therapeutic terms to actually cause more harm to people.
Yeah.
And I have found in
And
my relationship, yes,
unintentionally, but that is the personal responsibility of anybody that calls them a healer, teacher, leader, guide.
yes,
Is to be
community leader,
personally responsible for what you say you are and what you
I will
do.
never tell someone they're projecting.
And
Actually,
that they're re-wounding themselves, and that is the problem with the wounded healers today. Not only are they revisiting their wounds themselves within themselves, but they're also re-traumatizing the people that they're often working with. But I just want to highlight the relationship piece that you just shared, because we have a relationship to our pain. We have a relationship to money. We have a relationship to our stories, a relationship to our patterns. And part of becoming good at holding these spaces and containers is understanding our relationship to our stories, to our patterns, to our projections, to how we communicate and how we show up. And really doing the deep inner work of healing all of those relationships has nothing to do with a primary partner or a lover or a friend. We have a relationship with all of these inner aspects of ourselves, and tending to those relationships first become, and not using our clients or a healing space to also work on our own stuff. Those are separate containers, and it's not about you when you're in that leadership role. And I diverted a little bit there, but I just, with the expansiveness of like what our relationship, anything that we have an energy connection to is a relationship, and we need to work that relationship out. And so coming into right relationship with ourselves first. The end.
I love that. Yes, we are relating all of the time. We are relating all of the time. When I have encouraged a new client of mine to own the fact that she is a relationship coach, and I'm finding another angle, if you're listening, of like, exactly, like, you are already a relationship coach, but like, because we are helping, if we're helping people to see the relationship between their emotions to their actions, if we're helping people to see the relationship between themselves and the natural world, it's like we are guiding people, we are teaching people all the time. And for us to step in our power, to go, I am here to help people. What I'm hearing and what I'm remembering, and why I help clients at a deeper level, at a certain level, at a deeper level, at a certain level. I have my school. You can come in, you can get your questions answered, but there are people that come to me for mentorship, because in the mentorship level, imagine learning from somebody who is like, yes, I went to 6 years of school to guide people in a sacred container, to actually be a clean and clear in that place, in that space. In my life, I'm like a little bit naughty, I'm having some things, but then I go to my therapist and my friends, and I work on that. But it's like, this is what we've been trained in,
right,
to come into that space and actually be a channel. It's not
clear
something
channel,
just spiritual. It is spiritual. It's the most spiritual thing you can do. But I was actually trained in that. Yes,
how
of letting it all go. I come and I'm like, I am in service, clear, clean service to this human. And maybe when I get off the phone, some things might come up for me. Then I have a mentor. But when I was trained as a psychotherapist, we had mentors assigned to us. And I'm just like, okay, we didn't know that this conversation was going to go this way. But to really be in integrity, I've had this message before, to really be in integrity as a mentor, as a coach, as a guide, as a healer. If you are not getting your subconscious checked, you need to get checked right now. Of like, hey, like, where are you bringing your shit into this, even the sales process? Because we can, causing harm might be a little bit like, but we can repel sales
and
repel sales, because we're unclean. We're dirty little girls. Dirty girls.
Dirty girls.
Well, I just got distracted. What were we talking about? I'm a dirty girl.
I mean, it's a real quote in the Bible, though. Like, when you look at the Bible as a symbolic representation and the connection that it has to the occult, and you read the Bible from that lens, there is a line that says, well, then, what are we supposed to be doing? And it's like cleaning your clothes. And that's a metaphor. It's like there's a practice and a process of again, the personal responsibility and cleaning up our own energy field and cleaning our own clothes, our challenges, our relationships in all of the capacities that we've just highlighted, and really doing that inner work. Yeah.
Yeah, this is no joke. Like,
not to bring in the Bible, but
I have a quote from the Gospel of Thomas, which I do. I'm about to get it tattooed on my titties, but it's like what's coming through is to be in integrity as a guide, to bring true pleasure into the space and to help people with their most pleasurable biz. I was going to create a reel, and it was going to be like, easeful cash and like Yoni Wonder way orgasmic sales. No, Karen. No, Rachel. Like, you need to go through the pain. You need to go into your shadows so that you can actually bring what you're meant to bring forward. Because if it's getting blocked up by your own, like, my daddy wound, which I have one, I'm not, it's like I have one. And I was going to also do another talk around how I stopped attracting men like my father by just working on my own daddy wound.
Yeah.
I didn't need to go and ask men to change. I didn't need to go and ask my dad to change. I'm just like really facing the pain so that I can, like, ooh, I'm hearing, I see words. It's my gift. I'm just going to say it because this is my channel, but get fucked into God-like pleasure. Like, really remember the way to God. So bring back the Bible, but the way to God.
Well, God is separate from the Bible, but we'll just highlight that.
Right.
But yes.
I hear. Definitely I'm with
We're
that.
talking about
100%.
God.
I studied Vedanta. I did not actually. I know nothing. In my book, it's like, I have a chapter in my book that says, let me into church. I want to try that Jesus wafer. Just so you know how little I know about the Bible. However, yeah, God to me is what I learned at the foot of a monk at that. It's not separate from us.
Drop the link to your book right there, right?
Woo! I want to try that Jesus wafer. I want someone to read the Bible to me.
Right? Like with the best voice possible.
Yeah.
Like who has the sexiest, most mesmerizing.
Yeah. Will you read the Bible to me? But the monk, that's what he did. He read the Vedas to us. And it's like, I can
just
read
listen to it all day. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So hot. So through the pain. So let's bring it back to that and start to, I mean, we could talk for hours, but we both have calls actually in a little while because we're booked out practitioners.
I think it's important to highlight pain. Like being in the pain story is not conducive. And I think that you and I both agree on this point, which is why we don't practice traditional psychotherapy anymore. Because for me, talk therapy becomes redundant. And with just talk therapy alone, and what I mean by that is like staying in the stories, replaying the memories, retelling the stories, recreating the moments. You know, there's some benefit to doing that momentarily in different types of practices like EMDR therapy. In parts work, we revisit, scenes from our life and memories from our life. But we do it with the idea of feeling. And that's the somatic practice that talk therapy is missing, is that somatic feeling, and it's moving actually from the mind into the body, which is also moving from the masculine to the feminine. But that's where true transformation of energy happens, is when we're in our body. And so being able to access the feeling energy in our body of whatever emotion we're desiring to transmute doesn't get us there from talk therapy. We can't access the feeling through the thinking. And so the very first thing is like moving out of the mind, and this is the spiritual bypassing that's so common in New Age communities, is that people are intellectualizing their healing. And they can talk all day long about the reasons why and how smart they are and all of the words and the language, but still be afraid to actually feel it. And for those of us that have clinical trauma and clinical experiences with deeper experiences of long-standing trauma over long periods of time, the body is a very unsafe place to be. And so intellectualizing our healing makes us look smart and sound smart and can also be a challenge to find another healer, teacher, leader, guide that is capable of holding us feeling our trauma. And I think that that's, when people find that somebody who is actually has the capacity to hold a person. For me, for example, there are very few people that I will go on a healing journey with because my trauma is so intergrained into my personality and all of my parts that if you're not a skilled, trained trauma specialist, I'm just fucking way too complicated for you. Like, it's not, and then that's not a safe place for me to put all of my feeling. And I think that that's again what we're missing in the healing arena is people that can actually hold space for people to dive into how deep their feeling state can go and feel safe and held in that. And I think that, this is a shift that we need to make in healing is stepping away from the intellectualization of our trauma and being attached to our stories and playing out our patterns in relationship, all of the relationship ways, and moving instead less talking, more feeling, more moving, more expression of the full range of emotions that we have in safe containers.
I love that. That will lead us to what kind of safe container do you have that people can come?
Oh gosh. Yeah, I work with people in person and online. The last year and a half of my practice, I've been really focusing into utilizing the new lens of therapy that I'm working through, working with conscious kink and from a psychological perspective, working with therapeutic BDSM practice for somatic release and healing. Therapeutic BDSM includes 3 main pillars.
I get excited.
I know, I'm like, my pussy is already like, it's like, here's the juicy stuff. Role play, power exchange, and sensation and impact play. And so these are my therapeutic containers using a lot of breath work, intensive breath work practices, parts work, internal family systems therapy. So I hold containers. My therapy sessions are 3 hours long, 3 to 5 hours, because we dive in deep and really have a full journey in every session. And then I hold space in online containers, 12-week journeys for people who are really ready and committed to like, no, I know I need this work. I know that you're the right person for me, and let's do it. Then those are reserved for very special clients that are good resonance and fit for that. And I have my boutique space. My boutique space in San Marcos in Guatemala is really for everybody. People come in and we can do so much in 10 minutes, 15 minutes just of talking. An hour-long consult with me in my boutique space can be the equivalent of a year-long therapy journey with a traditional therapist, because the gift of being able to attune to where somebody is on their spiritual journey, their sexual journey, where they're at in their life process based on energetic anatomy, that's where my gifts shine. And I can drop in instantaneously and pinpoint exactly from my guides and your guides and the information available in the field to what is the most alive thing that we can have the most impact on right now. And then people can take 6 months to integrate just a 1-hour conversation. And so those are the kind of containers that I hold. And really pivoting, we kind of slipped away from that, but pivoting away from working. We pivoted from the pivot, which is kind of what we do. But really moving from world stages and working with thousands of people all over the world to really bringing the circle more intimate and really putting a cap on how many people that I hold space for at one time because of the depth with which we go to and how much is in the field to work with. So I worked for 15 years on international stages, teaching in front of a couple of hundred people at a time. And there's a lot of value in that, but those are planting seeds and just opening portals. And really now my preference is like really life transformation, and how do we get you from where you are to where you want to be in the most efficient way possible.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm going to leave all the links so that you can contact Anjali if you feel like in resonance with anything that we've been talking about today. And what you just said kind of brings it to my specialty, because I immediately was like, oh, yes. What people don't realize is that when you shift and pivot in the model of business that you're having, you don't have to light your business on fire. You don't
Right.
have to create a whole new platform. You don't have to like go into a cave and come back a new person. You simply get to shift the model into what you maybe you want to go from one to ones to international stages. Maybe you want to go like me, working high end one to one with people, into like writing books. And it's like when we go beyond, you hear me talking a lot about money and soul money mastery recently. But when we go beyond what, how can I make the most money in the quickest way possible? And we go beyond to like what's going to bring me the most pleasure, the byproduct of that is actually more money.
Right.
Because you're designed for this model at this point. At one point you were designed for the stage and doing international talks and teachings, and now it's like, okay, you're moving into the intimacy as a
Ooh,
person
I love
focusing
that.
on
Like, yes, because
intimacy.
intimacy is an edge for me. Intimacy is very different than pleasure, and intimacy is different. And yeah, I love that. Yeah.
Ooh, so you're getting little sparkles if you like know that you want to reinvent yourself or remember your mission, why you're here. Give either one of us a ring a ding. You're probably gonna need
Ring-a-ding-ding.
both of us. I was sitting here and I'm like,
I know we got a tag
how
team
could we
this.
collaborate? Like, I'm like, I know how, but I'm like, who would like to learn from two actually not just trauma informed, but people who worked with distinct. I worked with some of the toughest trauma. I worked with sexual behavior problems. It was a long time ago. I'm a rusty with that actual sexual deviance. But like to be highly trained in that space was, it made me who I am, but I needed to pivot into more lighter space, into more my Sagittarius era, into higher learning, into the spirituality behind uh, these reasons why we recommit these kind of patterns.
I think this
Really.
is such an important thing to highlight what you just said. Just because we have experienced the same trauma as another person doesn't actually make us the right person to work with that person. And I think that, again, like being properly trained really helps us to identify. For example, when I started out as a mental health social worker, I thought, I grew up on the streets, I have all of these drug addictions, I've been in and out of juvie and group homes, I'm the best person to go work with these teenage girls fresh in my education. And it was the worst the worst idea for me, because it was too similar
Yep.
to my trauma.
Yeah.
It was too much alike. And so I'm 21 years old working in group homes that I had just lived in 4 years prior. This is not always the case. And so, and again, this is where we end up re-traumatizing ourselves and re-traumatizing other people, because we think we have the same thing makes us the right person to work
Right.
with them. And just because you've worked on your trauma a little bit and healed your trauma experiences a little bit and even maybe integrated them, doesn't make you the right person to work with those people.
Yeah.
It's just not, it doesn't work that simply.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that, because a lot of people in the marketing world and the marketing gurus will be like, just speak to your younger self. I'm not speaking to my younger self. My younger self is a dipshit. I want to work with like folks that are badass, that like know they have a mission and they want to bring their mission forward in an empowered way. Like my younger self, I love my younger self, and when I was like scrounging around, trying to feed myself by singing songs in the streets. No, if you got dreads and you're still singing songs in the streets, get yourself to a certain space. You can buy my self-paced course. But if you want mentorship from me, there's a certain level of maturity that I've grown into on my own, with therapists, with coaches, with guides, However, like, no, you don't need to coach and guide and facilitate your younger self. You get to bring your mission forward from your desires. So allow your most pleasurable desire to come forth into the space and say, that's actually what I'm here to teach on. Not because I experienced a trauma
Yeah.
and so I want to help people who went through. That could be the thing that gives you the
It's
most
a
pleasure.
journey that most of us start on.
Mhm.
And I think maturing on our path brings us to that place of like, yeah, what brings me pleasure? I want to talk about sex and spirituality all day long. All day. It's the only topics of since I've been a little girl. They have nothing to do. Of course, I've experienced trauma in these areas, but they're not related to particular traumas that I've had. That's not what makes me proficient at working in that space. It makes me proficient working in that space because it's a genuine joy. It is a genuine passion. These are natural topics of curiosity for me. And so rather than trying to turn your pain and trauma into your business model, let's heal our pain and our trauma, keep that separate, and then find our passion and what our natural gifts are and what our natural interests are, that then we turn that into our business. So we're not turning our fucking trauma stories into our business platform.
Oh, nobody likes me, so let me just fucking post on the internet looking for likes. Like, right? I coach on this so often because I have to self-coach, you know, when I'm like, the algorithms changed and I forget that, like, it doesn't actually matter. It doesn't matter. I have the best clients. I'm filling up my school right now. Soul Money Mastery is open for enrollment.
Soul Money Mastery is the bomb.
It's so cute because you're mastering your most meaningful career. And we learn how to objectively run a successful company, and it's not always easy. When you have a need to be liked and validated, it can come sneak around here. It's like, oh, wait a minute, I don't need men to validate me, but all of a sudden I need my clients to tell me I'm a good girl. I don't need, I'm doing well in this area of my life, and then it sneaks around. So having somebody there with you that knows your patterns is super, super powerful at a certain level.
Mentorship is non-negotiable. And if you want to succeed in life, I mean, any of the, I don't think it's the right use of the word, but whatever. It's Saturday morning and I need more coffee.
Hunger, excess.
And I just forgot what I was going to say, but it's okay.
We're gonna have some coffee. Oh my god, I love how we match. But mentorship is non-negotiable.
Oh yeah, right. That's it.
And it's just about choosing the right one. So
it's just
either of
choosing
us,
the right mentor. It's like whether for your business or for your spiritual journey, your sensual liberation, motherhood, whatever. We all need to learn from people, and it's just non-negotiable. Yeah.
Well, we're gonna end with that. Anjali, thank you so much. We are fucking so cute. Also, who thinks we're cute? I want like validate me.
We're good girls.
We did so good. This has been so fun. I'll leave all the links. Thank you so much for your presence, for your time, for activating your mission wherever it's at, for experiencing your trauma and still believing in yourself. It's okay.
And everything is okay.
It's okay.
Everything is fine.
Oh.
You're all doing great.
My client just said that. She said, I think things are okay.
And
I was like, oh, this is so cute.
It's the best validation ever. It's like, actually, I think I'm okay.
So how many times have you heard that in a session?
Nothing wrong with me. Actually, I'm fine. It's like,
but then I catch her looking over her shoulder just to make sure. It's like, we are all like this. Yeah, at certain stages and at certain moments. That's why we can bring the empathy to it. That's why I can coach you through it. Of like, yeah, you've
okay.
always been okay. Just so you know. But like, it's great. You're gonna be okay. All right, call us. Bye.